part of Saraswati Group of Education, I, Mulika Vasyani, welcome you all to learn English. In the previous session, we went through the new words of the chapter Mr. Toad's Adventure. I hope everybody has learned them properly. Okay, now today we are going to proceed further in the journey of explanation part. Today, Mr. Toad will actually begin his adventure. So, are you all ready to begin our adventure with him? Buckle up your seat belts because with Mr. Toad, we are also going to go on adventurous trip with him. Okay? Because we have learnt the new words beforehand, it will be easy for us to understand all the new words which come across in the chapter today. I suggest to keep your textbook with you so you can relate all the things which we are going to understand today. Pay attention.
Mr. Toad's Adventure. Do you think it is right to give in to an impulse to do something, regardless of the consequences? Let us read the story of Mr. Toad's adventure to see where it led him. On a bright sunny morning, Mr. Toad felt very hungry after his long walk and walked into an inn. As he was relishing his meal, he heard the sound of a car coming in. The people in the car entered the inn and highly praised the car. Mr. Toad could stand it no longer, and he walked to the inn yard where his car was parked. He wondered if this car would start easily. The next moment, Mr. Toad was in the driver's seat and swung the car around the yard and sped on the road. As he heard a police siren, he increased his pace even more. Caught by the cop and asked for his license, Mr. Toad retorted, "I don't need any."
Okay, children, let us talk about Mr. Toad's adventure. Please keep your books open in front of you. Let us go to page number 1. Mr. Toad's Adventure is the chapter taken from the book The Wind in the Willows, which was written by Kenneth Grahame. He was a very famous writer from Scotland. Grahame used to make up these fantastical bedtime stories for his son Alastair. During his lifetime, Grahame wanted to wander here and there. This can also be seen in this story, as Mr. Toad has the greatest desire of having adventures here and there. That means the writer also wished to have adventures just like Mr. Toad. He also wanted to wander here and there. He also wanted to go here and there and have various experiences. Now let us go to page number 2 and see that why Mr. Toad's adventure turned out to be a disaster. Okay? Please turn the page. One bright summer morning, Mr. Toad was walking briskly along the high road. He strode along till he reached a little town. Now it was a summer morning, and Mr. Toad was walking briskly. Means he was walking little bit quickly. He was taking long steps. Strode means to take long steps and walk. He strode along till he reached a little town. So he was taking long steps and he was walking quickly to reach a little town. He was exceedingly hungry after his long walk. So he marched into an inn, ordered the best luncheon, and sat down to eat it in the coffee room. Now, after a very long walk, Mr. Toad was hungry, very hungry. So he marched into an inn. That means he went into an inn. He went into a restaurant. Ordered the best luncheon. That means the best things which were available at the restaurant for lunch, he ordered them. And sat down to eat in the coffee room. He was about halfway through his meal when a familiar sound approaching down the street made him start and fall a trembling all over. Now he could have finished his meal half only. At that time he could hear a familiar sound which was approaching down the street. That means which was coming nearer to him. And he started trembling. He started shivering a bit. The poop poop drew nearer and nearer. That means the honking of the horn drew nearer and nearer. It came nearer. The sound came nearer. The car could be heard turning into the inn yard and coming to a stop. Now, Mr. Toad could hear the sound of the car that the car has entered the inn yard. That means the restaurant's parking. And it has stopped there. The party entered the coffee room, hungry, talkative, and in all praise of the car that had brought them along so well. Now the people who had come into the car, they were entering the coffee room. They were hungry. They were talkative. That means they were keeping on talking all the time. And in all praise of the car. That means they were praising the car which they had brought there. Mr. Toad was all ears. That means Mr. Toad was listening to them carefully. He listened eagerly to their conversation for a time. He was listening to the conversation, to the talking of those people who had come into the car. But at last, he could stand it no longer and slipped out of the room quietly. Now it was difficult for Mr. Toad to resist himself from seeing the car. He heard a lot of praise about the car. So it was difficult for him to stay away from the car. He wanted to see the car. As soon as he got outside, he sauntered round quietly to the inn yard. Now, as soon as he went outside the coffee room, he walked in a relaxed manner and quietly he went to the parking of the restaurant where the car was parked. There cannot be any harm, he said to himself, in my only just looking at it. He's telling that there cannot be any harm, it cannot be any dangerous. I am just looking at it. The car stood in the middle of the yard, quite unattended. Unattended means there was nobody around to watch the car, to guard the car. And the car was parked right in the middle of the parking area. Mr. Toad walked slowly round it, inspecting it. Now Mr. Toad was walking around it, looking at it, each and every aspect of the car from all the sides. I wonder, he said to himself, I wonder if this sort of car starts easily. Now he is very eager to see the car, that whether the car starts easily or not. Next moment, Mr. Toad was found seated in the driver's seat, holding the handle of the car. Just look at Mr. Toad. Just before a moment, he was thinking that I just want to have a look at the car. And then he thought that I'm just thinking that can this car start easily? And now look at him. He has sat already in the car and he is holding the handle of the car. That means he is sitting in the driver's seat and he is holding the steering of the car. As the familiar sound of the car broke forth, the old passion seized on Mr. Toad and completely mastered him. Now, as he tried to start the car, the sound of the car was familiar to him. That means it was very tempting for him to ride the car. He had the old passion, that means very old wish to ride the car. And he could not resist from starting the car and driving the car. His wish, his passion had mastered him. His mind told him, come on, Mr. Toad, let us go for a short ride. He pulled the lever and swung the car round the yard and out through the archway. Now, as he had started the car, he just pulled the lever and swung the car. Swung is the past tense of swing. That means he started the car, started driving the car and took a round of the yard. And he went out through the archway, through a curved passage. Archway means a curved passage. So he took the car out of the parking area. All sense of right and wrong seemed temporarily suspended for Mr. Toad. Now Mr. Toad, actually he was very genuine person, he was very wise person, but right now as he was tempted to ride the car, to drive the car, all sense of right and wrong, that means he was not aware what is right, what is wrong, seemed temporarily suspended. That means it was for the time being that he could not make out what is right, what is wrong. He sped so fast, not knowing where he was going. Now just look at him. He is increasing the speed of the car. And he is not even knowing that where he was going. He was only conscious that he was Mr. Toad once more. Mr. Toad at his best and highest, Mr. Toad, the terror, the traffic queller, the lord of the lone trail, before whom all must give way or be smitten. Now, as I said, he was increasing the speed of his car. The car in which he was sitting and he was trying on a ride. Now, he had lost all the sense of right and wrong. and he was going and going and going. He was only aware that yes, I want to try this car. Let me see how much speed it can cut up. But as he was driving too fast, he could not see the traffic controller, the traffic inspector. He could not see that. He was just acting like the king of the street. As you know, when the king passes through the street, the people stand aside, giving him the way to go. And right now, Mr. Toad was also acting like he was the king of the street, where all the people have to give way to him, or they could be severely hit by the car. Into nothingness and everlasting night. He was passing through the street, and it was a very long night. He chanted as he flew, and the car responded with booming sound. And as he was speeding up the car, he was singing a song also. There was a tune on his lips, and even the car was responding to him with a booming sound. Boom, boom. He was living his hour, reckless of what might come to him. Now, he was living for the time being. He was living the moment of his driving. He was unaware of the danger which might come to him. He increased his pace even more when he heard the police siren. Now look at him. He has increased his speed even more now. When he heard the police siren, he heard that a police car is following him. He thought he might escape, but he was caught at the next turn of the road. Now let us go to page number 3. A chubby cop with a handlebar mustache approached him with a stern look on his face and demanded, "May I see your license, mister?" Now Mr. Toad was thinking that by increasing the speed, he might escape from the policeman, the traffic policeman who was following him. But it was not so. He got caught by a cop, means by a policeman. The policeman was having a stern look. That means a very serious look on his face. And he stopped Mr. Toad and asked that, "Mister, may I see your license?" And now let us see what Mr. Toad has to say. "License?" retorted Mr. Toad, huffing in the driver's seat. Now Mr. Toad is angry. As the policeman has stopped him, he is angry. And he shouted in anger, "License? I was just testing how fast this marvel could go. And excuse me, I don't need any license." Look at Mr. Toad now. What is he telling to the traffic inspector? He's telling that license? I'm just testing this car. This is the fastest car, so I want to test the speed. How much speed it can catch up. And he's telling to the policeman, to the traffic inspector, and excuse me, I don't need any license. Now, is it possible that if we are driving a car and if we do not have any license, then, oh my God, now I think Mr. Toad is in a deep trouble, big trouble. Now let us see what happens in the next page, in the next moment. Right now, whatever we have discussed till here, please go through it once again so that you will be able to come to the meaning of it and you can understand better. Okay, please read once more all the things which we have gone through today. Okay.
Wow! Now Mr. Toad is caught by a cop. And when the cop is asking for the license, Mr. Toad is telling, what license? I don't need any license. Is it possible that when we are driving on a road and we don't need to carry our driving license? Of course not. We have to carry our driving license when we are driving. Right? Now, as Mr. Toad has been caught by the cop, let us see in the next video lecture that what is going to happen with him as he is not having the license. With this video lecture, you are going to get a worksheet which you have to do as homework. There are two questions in the worksheet. Question number 1 is MCQ. MCQ means there will be one question and multiple answers. You have to read the question carefully and choose the correct answer. Question number 2 will be true or false. Some statements, some sentences will be given and you will have to find out whether they are true or false. That will be based upon the things which we have gone through today. So please read the chapter carefully or watch this video lecture again in order to write the answers correctly. Okay? And there are two ways of doing the worksheet. Either you can take the printout of the worksheet and write the answers in the same worksheet, or you can copy the worksheet in your rough book. If you are choosing the option of copying the answers in the rough book, please be careful about neatness. Write with beautiful handwriting. Do not make any spelling errors. Okay? And along with this worksheet, this video lecture, you are going to get the answer key of worksheet 1. So please cross check it. If you have written any wrong answers, please correct them accordingly and do the worksheet on time. Thank you.